G'day guys, how are you? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I have yet another movie review. This movie is a horror comedy from the United States, English language, released in the year 2013, directed by Michael Ministeri, and this film is called Sucker. So Sucker, it takes place in a city that has been overrun by a mosquito virus epidemic that has cost a lot of people their lives. The government wants to find a cure, so they employ a mad scientist in order to find one. The mad scientist is running out of time and he's desperate to find a human guinea pig. And he finds this guinea pig in the main character. And the main character has been let go from his job in a very horrible way. He finds out that his wife has been cheating on him, so he's lost his job, lost his marriage all in one day, so he goes to the bar to drown his sorrows, and this is where the scientist meets our main character. The scientist befriends him, says that he'll take care of him, and then the main character passes out from too much alcohol consumption. So this is where the scientist kidnaps the main character, takes him back to his lab, injects him with this virus, but the cure doesn't work. It backfires and the main character ends up dying. So the scientist freaks out. He ditches his body in an alleyway, and he thinks that's going to be the end of it, but it's certainly not going to be the end of it, because he starts to suspect that maybe his job, the main character's job at working at this power plant for so long, has caused him to be subjected to all this radiation, and the radiation mixed in with the virus injected in him has mutated and has allowed this main character to come back from the dead as a human mosquito. So this mosquito man uses his powers in order to exact revenge on the people that have done him wrong in the past, and at the same time try and win over the girl of his dreams. So whether or not he can achieve this is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Sucker. This is one of the rare occasions where you get a blind buy that you have no expectations for, and it completely blows you away because it's the complete opposite of what you initially thought it would be. So this was in a bargain bin. It was only $7. No one ever talks about it, so already the recipe for disaster was there, but I thought, why not give it a go? It's very cheap, and as I said, every now and then, the beauty of blind buys is that they can stun you, and you can just uncover some gems that no one talks about. So I wouldn't say this is exactly a gem, but it is a very good film. It's very fun, it's very self-aware. It's only a very short film, but it doesn't waste any opportunity to become what it wants to be, and what it wants to be is just an entertaining throwback to monster films of yesteryear. So if you're a fan of The Fly, if you're a fan of James Gunn's Slither, if you're a fan of trauma films, you're going to like this movie because it combines all those elements in to make a very quirky offbeat comedy slash horror that is about this guy who is really hard done by, and all of a sudden he realises that he's got these superhuman powers that he can exact his revenge, and he comes across as a bit of an anti-hero. And the movie has a sinister side to it. Although it's a very fun film, entertaining, it's a movie that you're not going to take seriously. The characters are very exaggerated to the point where they're very funny, but there's a sinister undertone to it. There are some really dark moments that I wasn't expecting. Therefore, you know, the films of Slither come about, where it's a horror comedy. It doesn't take itself seriously, but underneath it's got a very ghastly sort of sinister undertone. And Sucker had that very similar theme to it, and that's what I really liked about it, because I was just expecting a really silly comedy that would appeal to everybody. But this movie is not really going to appeal to everybody, because yes, you've got funniness to it, you've got, you know, these moments where you think to yourself it's very lighthearted, but then all of a sudden you're hit with something that is quite dark. So it has a very fine blend that will appeal to all horror fans. You don't have to be a fan of horror comedies, because you can push the comedy aside and it can just go along as a fun horror film by itself. So my only problem with the movie is the fact that the comedy didn't really translate through the screen very well for me. Maybe it's just my specific sense of humour, but I just didn't laugh as much as I wanted to, and I thought if it was funny it would have capped off and it would have been a gem, because it would have been the whole package. But because it bills itself as a horror comedy that you're going to have a lot of laughs, I thought the script was good, but it just didn't quite translate through the screen. It didn't make me laugh. I only half smiled here and there, but that's still not a negative, because I really enjoyed it. The movie is very self-aware, it's very well thought out, it feels like it has a plan, and the plan is stuck to from the first second to the last. And as I said, it's a very quirky film. It almost feels like a comic book come to life. There was touches of Sin City, there was touches of Troma classics. Lloyd Kaufman plays the boss. He was a nice little cameo there. So it's quite obvious that this director is a fan of those films that I've just mentioned, and he's taken that on board and he's created something that is a throwback, but at the same time something a little bit different. It felt like just a very strange sort of atmosphere. I really like the colouring scheme to it. As I said, it felt like a comic book, it felt like a cartoon that was coming to life, and I just enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. The soundtrack is very good, as I said, the story is very good, and it's just a film that you have a lot of fun with. You just leave your brain at the door, you just enjoy it for what it is. As I said, if it was a little bit funnier it would have been great, but for me, just being an entertaining throwback film by itself was good enough for me. So there's dark moments in there for horror fans, and there's also some lighter moments, so you're not really going to get disturbed. But as I said, if you're a fan of monster films of yesteryear, movie, then Psycho pays great tribute to it, and I thought that this is one of the occasions where it's a blind buy, but it was one that I was really happy to take. So overall for Sucker, going to give it 3.5 stars, and it's coming highly recommended. Alright guys, that's my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.